judicial reforms even before October 7th last year when there were rolling protests. I was here just a year ago for this. And so, we're really seeing huge emotion here, not just for the release of these hostages, but against the government. And that is why when we heard just now from the Hostage Forum, the Families Forum, this is the group that typically represents these families, they want to see this expression of anger today that really is unprecedented. Now, it's going to be hard to top what they've already been doing, not just over the past couple of months, but even last summer. So it looks as though they said something to the effect of they want to make the nation shudder. They want to shut it down. So we're expecting huge protests tonight. I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't want to go over the top here. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets violent, because it has been getting violent in the past. But this is a very sad day for Israel. They discovered these 6 bodies in a tunnel, and according to the IDF, they had been killed just moments before they were discovered as the military was bearing down on them inside this tunnel in the southern Gaza Strip in the city of Rafah. But as we're talking about all of this, at the same time, there's some positive news. There is going to be pauses in the fighting, starting today for a couple of hours every day for several weeks, as health workers fan out across the Gaza Strip in isolated sections of Gaza to try to inoculate more than 500,000 children for polio. And this comes just about a week after we saw the first infant in the Gaza Strip afflicted with paralysis on one of his legs. He has polio. This is the first case of polio in the Gaza Strip in 25 years. So now there's about 1.2 million doses of this vaccine against polio, which, by the way, is a very terrifying disease because it is totally preventable, but it is uncurable once it's been contracted. So that is why it is such a concern for global health advocates. This was a disease that was going the way of smallpox before we saw it here in the Gaza Strip. It really, I spoke with one World Health Organization representative yesterday. He was saying it's really only found in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So that's why the sighting of it in the Gaza Strip is so troubling, and why after famine, tens of thousands of deaths, mostly among civilians, according to Gazan health authorities, that hasn't been able to silence the guns. But polio and the threat of this disease coming back, that has been able to create some sort of pause in various parts of the Gaza Strip, and we're going to be seeing that every day for the next several weeks. Guys.
Matt, if you could give us also, as you look at the crosshairs of, as you just mentioned, the humanitarian impact, obviously, on the Palestinian people in Gaza, the hostages and their circumstance, what are you hearing about how that, particularly with these hostages' death, changed the scenario and the pressure to get that ceasefire in place that's been sort of lagging behind, these narratives? I mean, it's not pulling the agenda forward enough. Do you think this may shift that effort some? And have we heard anything from the families of the hostages that were killed?
Yeah, it's a great question, Michael, and it's kind of the question on everybody's lips here in Israel. And I think I'm going to be answering it a little bit better like a couple hours from now after we see what goes on tonight. Like I said, this is expected to be a pretty big protest, and there have already been some really big protests. But these series of deaths, these 6 people, the discovery of their bodies, really vindicates the hostage families and a lot of these protesters who have been saying time and time again that there is no military solution to getting these hostages back. And that has been the line from really October 7th onwards. And Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing ministers in what is the most right-wing cabinet in Israeli history, they have said over and over again, we are applying military pressure on Hamas, and that will move the dial. That will get them to the table to agree to a hostage swap, to agree to some kind of deal, and they will not stop their military operation, according to Netanyahu and his ministers, until Hamas is completely destroyed. Obviously, Hamas is never going to sign up to a deal that sees them completely destroyed. And now Benjamin Netanyahu is putting up new roadblocks, new demands in these negotiations that the United States has really been sticking to and pouring, the Biden administration pouring a lot of diplomatic resources into. We saw last week there were negotiations in Cairo and Doha. They're expected kind of to continue, even though they're shrouded in pessimism from all sides. But this is a demand that Benjamin Netanyahu has to keep soldiers on what is called the Philadelphia corridor. And that is just another name for the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. That's considered a non-starter for Hamas, and it has been very controversial for the Egyptians who share that border. And a lot of senior officials within not just politicians, but also within the top brass of the military here in Israel, they've been saying that Benjamin Netanyahu's demands are just dilatory measures. He's just trying to stop this deal from happening, both because if he accedes to a deal that doesn't involve the total destruction of Hamas, he could see these right-wing ministers leave his cabinet. They have threatened to do that repeatedly over and over again. But also because there's a lot of thinking here, and we even heard this from the Biden administration just a couple of months ago, from Biden himself, that there's a possibility that Benjamin Netanyahu is delaying this deal because he's worried that once there's a deal, he will be voted out of office, and then the law will catch up with him. The judges will throw him in jail for corruption allegations that he has already been facing. So in many ways, and it is not uncommon to hear this in the press and even among people who are not particularly left-wing here in Israel, that Benjamin Netanyahu is sacrificing the lives of these hostages in order to save his own skin legally. This is something you hear all the time, and we've been hearing it from the White House as well. And that is why the anger on the streets tonight is expected to be so fierce and so palpable. Guys.
All right, Matt Bradley, live from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much, Matt. We'll continue our coverage with former CIA Chief of Staff Jeremy Bash in just a moment. And later, Vice President Harris's Labor Day blitz across key battleground states. It's all happening on the weekend.
Leo.
Jake from State Farm.
You did it, buddy.
My personal price plan?
Yeah, your price. It's amazing.
Well, you're the one that suggested bundling home and auto, you bundling bundler.
Hey, who's all about getting themselves an affordable price?
I called our agent.
Bundling. Just another way to save with the personal price plan.
It's true.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Introducing Allison's Black Psoriasis. She thinks her flaky gray patches are all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis. Over here. Otezla can help you get clearer skin and reduce itching and flaking with no routine blood tests required. Doctors have been prescribing Otezla for over a decade. Otezla is also approved to treat psoriatic arthritis. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions can happen. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Some people taking Otezla had depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur.
With clear skin, Girls' Day Out is a good day out. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla.
App stores and smartphones have changed everything in our world. And just like an app store, Ethereum creates a place for others to build and launch new applications, which are owned by everyone on the blockchain. What if you could own a part of that ecosystem? CE. Registered access to Ethereum, available through your existing investment account.
Labor Day is finally here. It's our biggest savings event of the year, and you'll find huge savings on our newest fall arrivals for every room in your home. During the Labor Day event, you'll get a full 60 months to pay with absolutely no interest and no money down. Or for your cash purchases, we'll subtract the tax. Special hours this Labor Day, Monday 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Hurry into your local Moore Furniture showroom for the best selection.
I am embarrassed to say this, but I've been using deodorant on my armpits for the past 40 years. And yet anytime I noticed odor anywhere else, I thought I needed a second shower, I wasn't clean, or there was something wrong with me. And then my gynecologist told me about Lumi. It's a whole body deodorant for pits, feet, and privates that controls odor anywhere and everywhere on your body. I tried it and I noticed a difference right away. Everywhere. You won't realize the body odor you've just been living with until you try Lumi and it's gone. Go to lumideo.com to build your customized bundle today.
We are back with our breaking news coverage of the 6 hostages found dead in Gaza by Israeli Defense Forces. Now, according to the Israeli Defense Force, the hostages are believed to have been killed shortly before they were found. Joining us now is Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at the CIA and the Department of Defense. Jeremy, thank you for getting up early with us this morning on this breaking news. I want to go to this point that we know from the Israeli media, given autopsies, that hostages, the bodies that were recovered, were killed. The people were killed shortly before the troops got to them, the Israeli Defense Forces, which, as Michael and I were just discussing in the break, suggests that they were killed intentionally because Hamas knew they were coming to be rescued. What kind of conversations are happening now, do you think, given your experience within the federal government? Obviously, CIA Director Burns has been lead on the negotiations for the ceasefire in consultation with Secretary Blinken, the president, vice president, so on and so forth. But does this complicate the matter here? And are they working to gather more information, you think, given your experience?
Well, Simone and Michael, first of all, we have to say we are heartbroken because this American hostage, Hersh Goldberg Poland, is an American citizen who was attending a music festival, just like any American youth today would be attending a soccer tournament or a back-to-school barbecue, and he was taken by terrorists. His arm was blown off. He managed to somehow survive that gruesome wound, and he survived 11 months in captivity. And his parents, John Poland and Rachel Goldberg Poland, who I know personally, who so many have worked with. They've been advocates on the world stage. They've met with President Biden. They met with Vice President Harris. They've met with world leaders, the Pope, leaders from around the world to basically plead, please let these hostages go. And Hamas could end this right now by letting these nearly 100 hostages go. To answer your question directly, Simone, I think it's full steam ahead to try to get a ceasefire deal. I don't think any discovery of additional hostages who have been murdered by Hamas really changes the equation. The United States wants a ceasefire. We want the hostages released, all of them. There are still 7 American hostages unaccounted for, 4 who we believe are living. But for Hamas to brutally murder an American hostage in cold blood, just as we are negotiating their release, just shows you the depravity of that organization's ideology and their tactics.
Jeremy, right at this point, to Simone's question, that there are a lot of efforts that are underway within the West Wing Situation Room looking at this. Of course, the State Department and other governmental organs, as you know, as they're trying to gather that, the president's put out a very forceful statement, obviously, to condemn these killings. Hamas has responded to this hostage crisis. Dr. Bassem Naim, member of the Political Bureau of Hamas in Gaza, noted, quote, if President Biden is concerned with protecting human life, regardless of his nationality or religion, he must exercise his powers and use his tools to stop